you know, I know in my city, which is not a super rich city, and in so many cities, you see these apartment complex after apartment complex rising where people are paying $2,000+ for one room apartments. A, who the hell are these people? And how, and then I'll go into these questions. How can affordable housing be possible when developers and leasing management companies dominate the market with luxury housing that most people can't afford? Isn't affordable housing a more profitable venture? In other words, I think they're saying more people can't afford those things. You'd think there'd be a demand for that. What can be done to encourage housing developers, realtors to decrease the cost of rental costs, even if the minimum wage goes to $15 an hour, it will still not be enough to cover the cost of a family for the parent, a single mother or father. Finally, what updates are needed to statutes or the Florida Real Estate Commission to help with smart and tiny homes? I'll start with Chris.
It's a lot. Most of you are from probably Orlando or Central Florida. My office is right downtown near Lake Eola, and there are extraordinary, beautiful buildings going up all around, all through. And St. Pete is no different. Downtown Tampa, Miami. I don't know who all those folks are. I probably didn't get as many of them to vote for me as I would like. But that is where you make the most amount of money. It's just pure economics. You know, we have communities from here all throughout the southeast up into the Midwest. Now, our average rents, we range from about $550 to the very high side, 900, very few in the 1,000 area. So from an affordable housing perspective, for instance, in Central Florida, that would be very hard to find those rents just about anywhere, and harder and harder. And yet we still have communities where that's just too much, right? We hear that that's too much, and yet you're trying to keep these properties sustainable. So you make more money. But there's a flip side. You know, this can be a profitable business. If you do it well, if you do it in enough places, you can make a profit. It may not be like they do in that world. And that is, I think, the type of business. You know, I think there's a huge movement. We talk about the types of groups that can really influence the conversation around bringing people together. I think of the faith communities, which I spent a lot of time in this process. So when we're talking about housing or healthcare, you know, whether I spent a lot of time in African American churches, in mosques, in synagogues, the faith community is better, in my view, than a lot in communicating to those people in the middle that are challenged to figure this stuff out, why it matters. I think also there's this growing huge movement across the country. Florida is late to the game, as we are in many places, but around something called impact businesses or multiple bottom line businesses. Affordable housing is one example, but I talk to people that come through my office on a weekly basis who are trying, and a lot of millennials want to do this, who are trying to be entrepreneurs, but who are trying to build the types of businesses that are good for their communities, that actually produce something, a good or a service, that they can feel good about 40 years down the line. And so I think those types of businesses, you probably know people in your network who are a part of that, supporting them, caring for them, nurturing them, is a big part of how we tackle some really intractable problems in Florida. And I know I have friends that are involved in tackling it in the healthcare space, the housing space. And those are some private solutions we really need here in Florida.
Chris, I think, maybe Anna knows, I think the legislature banned local communities from doing this, but there's been talk about requiring developers, apparently they're making a lot of, to set aside some money, if not units, but set aside some money for affordable housing. Is that a good idea?
Sure, well, and Representative Escamani knows about this much more than I. She was up there advocating in Tallahassee. This is where we get into the preemption, again, that was raised, right, which is the concept that here's where we are with housing. The federal government is no longer interested. They're retrenching from the space. The state government doesn't get it, and the local governments get it, want to do something about it, are there to help, but they don't have any money. They don't have any resources at scale to address the problem.
So folks like Representative Escamani and others are trying to get more flexibility so local governments can be creative in the delivery of these types of things. And the state government, at every opportunity, they did it again this year. Was it 7103? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Brett Fisher's
And explain what 7103 did.
Yeah, so this was a bill sponsored by a Jacksonville Republican that it had some potential positives for affordable housing, but mostly negative. And it also, by the way, stripped away the easy ability for folks to litigate new development that might be environmentally dangerous by making the loser pay for all fees. So creating a difficult environment for environmental groups to challenge development. But two parts in affordable housing. One was it offered flexibility on impact fees. And we have heard from local governments that having more flexibility with impact fees can help with affordable housing because any cost that a developer has goes right to the owner or the renter. A developer is not eating up the cost. And that's why the affordable housing trust funds are essentially subsidizing and incentivizing affordable housing to be built because the reality is most developers, they don't see the benefit unless they have the financial incentive to do so. Impact fees can help, but they offer flexibility. So that was one somewhat positive part of the bill, but unfortunately the negative far outweighed that one positive. And to Chris's point, it has language that does not give cities the control to say, if you're gonna build in this area, you have to have X number of affordable housing units. There used to be the ability to have more flexibility to a developer to say, can you include that type of quota of units? And that power from local governments was stripped away in this bill. And the governor signed it. He signed it the last day before July 1st, the last Friday, alongside the rights restoration bill. So he made the decision to sign some pretty controversial bills all at once on a Friday news dump. Obviously not wanting the attention of supporting these type of anti-democratic and bills that really do keep people poor and keep the status quo the same way it is in Florida.
That was depressing. When everyone is yelling,